My name is Sierra Lawson, and at 35 years old, I built a wine tech empire that revolutionized Napa's vineyards, something my family never knew about. I was driving back to the old farmhouse for Christmas dinner, the first in 7 years, with knots twisting in my gut. Dad had always favored my older sister, but nothing prepared me for the bomb he dropped at the table. When he sneered that the inheritance wasn't for a pig like me, I just nodded and kept sipping my wine. Little did they know the night was about to explode. Dad's words hung there like smoke from a bad barrel, but then the TV flickered on, showing something that turned his face to ash. Mom rushed over, dropping to her knees, begging me to save the family business. I only smirked and said, "Go away, this pig isn't stupid." If you're watching this right now and family drama hits too close to home, smash that like button, subscribe for more raw stories that flip the script, and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from? Stick around. I'm taking you through a Christmas that wrecked my family forever. I pulled up to the farmhouse driveway, the gravel crunching under my rented tires as the last light faded over the rows of vines. The place hadn't changed, those sprawling Hayes vineyards stretching out like they owned the valley, which they pretty much did. I grabbed my bag and stepped out, the chill air hitting me with that faint sticky sweetness of fermenting grapes from the barrels stacked by the barn. Mom Trisha Hayes opened the door before I could knock her smile tight like always. "Sierra, you actually came." She pulled me into a quick hug, her perfume mixing with the warm rush of cinnamon from inside. Over her shoulder, I spotted the living room, chaos-colored lights strung along the exposed beams, a massive tree crammed with ornaments that jingled faintly, and the whole family scattered like they were posing for a catalog shoot. Dad Ryan Hayes sat in his leather armchair by the fireplace, nursing a glass of their house red, his eyes flicking up to size me up. No hug, just a nod. "Sierra." His voice carried that same gravelly edge, like he'd swallowed too much tannin over the years. My older sister Jenna Hayes lounged on the couch with her husband Taylor, their kids Brandon and Mackenzie glued to their tablets in the corner. Jenna glanced over, her lips curling just enough to sting. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence. Still playing around in California." Taylor chuckled beside her, squeezing her hand like it was a team effort. Then there was my younger brother Andrew Hayes with his wife Sierra, no relation, just bad luck on names, and their son Logan slouched against the wall, thumbs flying over his phone. Andrew gave me a half wave. "Hey sis, long time." The extended crew filled out the room. Aunt Kayla Brooks, Dad's sister, chatted with Uncle Kevin by the window, while Uncle Tyler Brooks, Mom's brother, and Aunt Cassidy poured drinks at the sideboard. The air hummed with low chatter, everyone careful not to poke at anything real. We migrated to the dining room as Mom called out that dinner was ready. The long oak table groaned under platters of roasted lamb glazed in their Cabernet reduction, crusty bread still steaming from the oven, and bowls of heirloom tomatoes drizzled with olive oil from the estate. Glasses clinked with the deep pour of Hayes Reserve. Dad's Pride, the one that had won awards back when I was a kid. I slid into my spot between Aunt Kayla and Mackenzie, right across from Dad at the head. The prayer came first. Dad's voice booming. "Thanks for the harvest, the family, and another banner year for the vineyards." No mention of me being back. Forks scraped plates as talk bubbled up, safe stuff like the kids' soccer scores or the latest Napa festival gossip. Jenna dominated, of course. "We just closed deals on 2 new plots up in Sonoma, expanding the label into premium organics. Taylor's handling distribution, and it's blowing up." She beamed at Dad, who nodded like she'd hung the moon. Andrew jumped in, not to be outdone. "Yeah, and I'm overseeing the irrigation upgrades. Saved us a fortune on water last season, vineyards are thriving." Logan mumbled something about a school project on climate tech, but no one bit. They turned to me eventually, "The way you prod a bruise." "So, Sierra," Dad said, swirling his glass, "that little side gig of yours in the city, it pan out yet?" Jenna smirked over her fork. "Or are you still chasing trends while the real work happens here?" I forced a smile, poking at my lamb. "It's keeping me busy." Before I could dodge further, Dad cleared his throat, tapping his knife against the crystal, his signal for something big. The room hushed, forks pausing midair. Before dessert, he started, standing tall like he was toasting at a tasting room. "I've got news on the family business. Hayes Vineyards has grown thanks to Jenna's vision and Andrew's execution. We've acquired 3 prime acres in the valley, pushing us into the top tier for exports." Applause rippled lightly, Jenna straightening with that glow she always chased. Mom squeezed her hand under the table. Dad pressed on. "Succession's key now. I'm stepping back next year. Jenna takes CEO, her marketing savvy will scale us global. Andrew as VP Ops, locking in those efficiencies." Cheers erupted, Uncle Tyler raising his glass. To the next generation, Jenna soaked it up, Andrew grinning modestly. But Dad's eyes locked on me, then his jaw set. As for the will, I've updated it to match contributions. Jenna and Andrew get equal shares of the vineyards and assets. They built this with me. He paused, voice dropping. Sierra, the inheritance isn't for a pig like you. The word landed like a slap, that old nickname dragged out for the crowd. Gasps rippled, but he barreled on. You've run off to chase fantasies. Jenna deserves everything, she's earned it. Mom leaned in, her voice sharp. Your sister deserves everything. Heat flooded my face. I pushed back my chair, standing slow, fork clattering down. I understand, Dad. My voice stayed even, but inside something cracked. The room froze, eyes darting, breaths held as I met his stare. No tears. Just the burn of years piling up. Everyone's eyes locked on me, waiting for the fallout. Logan shifted in his seat, thumb jabbing the remote. The TV above the mantel burst alive, shattering the hush with a Sacramento news jingle. Static buzz brief before the anchor filled the screen, rattling off stock ticks and drought warnings for the valley floor. Forks froze mid-lift. No one breathed as Logan twisted the dial higher, the volume swelling like a barrel overflow. Breaking in agribusiness, Napa's Greenvine Tech sells to AgriGiant for $2.5 billion flat. My napkin twisted in my lap. The set glowed harsh against the dim room, pulling every gaze. And there Mackenzie Ford, my COO since Davis days, stood poised before a vine row that screamed Hayes acreage might grip tight. Sierra Lawson's breakthrough app is a game-changer for viticulture, Mackenzie declared, her tone crisp as fall pruning. It crunches satellite data and soil metrics to forecast droughts down to the row, slashing water draw by 40%. This deal secures Napa's vines against the next big dry. Lawson's vision saved estates from ruin last season alone. Jenna's glass slipped, wine sloshing onto the cloth in a dark bloom. That's impossible, Sierra. Her whisper, cracked eyes bulging toward me like I'd scripted the feed. Dad's chair scraped back an inch, his face ashen as pressed lees. 2.5 billion Greenvine, your app. He gripped the table edge, veins standing out like gnarled roots. Andrew bolted upright, napkin forgotten. Sis, you flipped the company for that much. Logan's remote clattered down. He gawked, phone vibrating, ignored in his pocket. Aunt Kayla's laugh escaped sharp. Lord have mercy, Sierra, spill every drop. Uncle Kevin grunted approval while Uncle Tyler and Aunt Cassidy leaned in, murmurs blending with the anchor's wrap-up. Mom clutched her necklace, beads clicking. How on earth, when did this? Jenna rallied, voice pitching high. Mix up, has to be another Sierra. Pigs don't code miracles. Taylor tugged her arm. She jerked free, fixed on me. The screen flashed my headshot from the Industry Expo, vines framing my face, no mistaking. Chaos ignited, voices crashed over each other, louder than crush pads at peak. Details. Sierra now, Dad demanded, looming half out of his seat. Andrew cut in. The AI part, how's it dodge the heat spikes? Jenna overrode. Billionaire from your side hustle, prove it. The kids stirred, Brandon ditching his tablet, Mackenzie elbowing Chloe with. Aunt Sierra's a boss, Logan beamed. That's the sustainable tool from my essay. Aunt Sierra, you nailed the drought model, insane. I smoothed my sleeve, breath steady despite the roar in my chest. They'd pinned me under their stairs moments ago. Flip the barrel. Correct, I stated, flat voice slicing through. Greenvine mine. The app maps hyperlocal weather, pulls from NASA feeds and ground probes, alerting growers to pivot irrigation before roots fry. Pilots in Sonoma held yields steady through the 23 scorch. Dad slumped, hand dragging over his brow. Months ago, not a whisper. Jenna scoffed, folding arms. Lucky break. Vines don't run on code. Breakthrough, I countered, holding her stare. We iterated through 2 near collapses, bootstrapped on ramen and field tests. Now it's in 1,500 operations coast to coast. Mom's whisper broke soft. Hid it from family. Why? Andrew probed next, on scaling, Jenna on valuation, Doc's dad on overlooked synergies. The onslaught built relentless as a late rain. Questions piled on from every corner. I leaned back in my chair, the oak creaking under me as their questions hung heavy like overripe grapes. My pulse hammered, but I kept my voice steady, slicing through the chatter. You want the truth, fine. 17 years ago, I was begging Dad for help with UC Davis viticulture program, best in the country. Girls marry well, Sierra. He'd snapped, pouring every dime into Jenna's business degree and Andrew's engineering stint. I was 18, stuck in the tasting room, scrubbing glasses while Jenna was groomed to run Hayes vineyards. They called me pig back then, not for looks but for being useless to their legacy. I'd grit my teeth, vowing to prove them wrong. So I did. I deferred Davis a year, worked 3 jobs at once, picking grapes at dawn, waitressing lunch shifts at a diner, and bookkeeping for local wineries by midnight. My hands blistered. My eyes burned from late-night study. I scraped every cent, took loans, and landed at Davis the next fall. College was brutal, 4 hours of sleep during exams, side gigs to cover rent. But I graduated top of my class, clutching a degree they'd never valued. Post-grad, I joined a scrappy startup in Sonoma, coding irrigation models for pennies. When it folded, I had enough saved to dream bigger. Greenvine Tech was born 10 years ago, an app to save vineyards from drought with AI-driven weather forecasts. We nearly tanked twice, living off cheap coffee and code rewrites in a cramped garage. The breakthrough hit 4 years back. A Napa grower used our app to reroute water, saving his entire yield during a heat wave. Word spread. Contracts piled up. By last month, 1,500 vineyards ran our tech from Oregon to Virginia. Jenna's smirk twitched, her fork stabbing a tomato. Sounds like dumb luck. A pig doesn't build empires. Her words stung sharp as a pruning blade, but I'd heard worse from her. Luck, I shot back, voice low. I built this from dirt while you coasted on Dad's name. Every line of code, every pitch, I earned it. My knuckles whitened around my glass, but I didn't flinch. Andrew shifted, his face caught between awe and guilt. Sis, I had no idea. I mean, 2.5 billion, that's unreal. His voice cracked like he was seeing me for the first time. Mom's beads clicked faster, her eyes darting. Why hide it, Sierra? We're family. Her tone carried that old mix of pity and blame, like I'd betrayed them by succeeding. Family. My jaw tightened. You all chose Jenna from the start, her degree, her deals, her future. I was the pig, remember, never good enough for the vines. I paused, letting it sink in. I hid it because you never asked. Not once. Aunt Kayla nodded slow, her lips pursed. She's right, Ryan. You pushed her out. Uncle Kevin muttered agreement while Uncle Tyler and Aunt Cassidy swapped glances, the air thick with unease. Jenna tossed her hair, voice sharp. Don't play victim. You ran off to chase pipe dreams. Hayes Vineyards is real work, grapes, not gadgets. Taylor touched her shoulder, but she waved him off, glaring. Andrew tried again, softer. How'd you even start? Like the tech part, where'd it come from? His eyes flicked to Logan, who was still buzzing from the TV clip, nodding eagerly. Brandon and Mackenzie whispered, their tablets forgotten. Is Aunt Sierra richer than Grandpa now? Mackenzie asked Chloe, loud enough to draw a wince from Mom. Dad stayed silent, his face a mask, fingers tracing the rim of his glass. The questions kept coming, Andrew on tech, Jenna on proof, Mom on secrets. I held my ground, their voices blurring into a storm. The room crackled with tension, waiting for my next move. Jenna leaned forward, her eyes narrowing like she was sizing up a bad vintage. All right, Sierra, let's talk business. Her voice dripped with forced calm, fingers tapping the table. Your app's got traction, Hayes Vineyards could use it. Water forecasting, right? We partner up, integrate it into our operations, save the estate from these dry spells. Win-win? I stared, my blood boiling under the cool mask I held. Partner, after years of her sneers. No deal, Jenna, I said, voice like steel. You called my work a fluke 10 minutes ago. I'm not bailing out your grapes. Her jaw dropped, a flush creeping up her neck. You'd let the family business tank. That's our legacy. Taylor nudged her, whispering something, but she shook him off, glaring. This isn't about you, pig. It's bigger than your ego. My laugh came sharp, cutting the air. Ego. You've leaned on Dad's name your whole life. I built Greenvine from nothing. No handouts, no vineyard to inherit. I leaned in, matching her stare. You don't get to claim my work now. Andrew cleared his throat, his plate untouched. Sis, hold on, he said, voice low, almost pleading. I messed up. I followed Jenna's lead, ignored what you were doing out there, but damn, 2.5 billion, I'm proud of you. His eyes met mine, flickering with guilt, like he'd just realized he'd bet on the wrong horse. Proud, I snapped, my voice rising before I caught myself. You stood by while they called me pig, Andrew. You clapped for Jenna's deals, never once asked what I was building. Spare me the late applause. His face fell, and Logan, his son, shifted awkwardly, glancing between us. Aunt Kayla broke the silence, her tone sharp as a cork puller. Ryan, you hearing this? You and Trisha pushed Sierra out from day one. Jenna's no saint, she rode your coattails. Sierra's the one who made it. Uncle Kevin nodded, his arms crossed, while Uncle Tyler and Aunt Cassidy exchanged looks, the tension coiling tighter. Dad stayed silent, his face pale as crushed chalk fingers frozen on his glass. He looked smaller somehow, like the weight of my words had pressed him down. Jenna's kids Brandon and Mackenzie whispered to Chloe, their eyes wide. "Is Aunt Sierra gonna save Grandpa's vines?" Brandon asked, loud enough to sting. Mom's hand twitched, her necklace beads clacking. She leaned toward me, voice low but urgent. "Sierra, the vineyards are struggling. These droughts, last season's yield was down 30%. Your app could turn it around." Her eyes pleaded, but there was an edge, like she was testing me. I pushed my plate away, the lamb cold now. "Struggling." My voice was ice. "You didn't care about my struggles when I was working 3 jobs to get through Davis. You backed Jenna every step, Mom. Now you want my help." I paused, letting the words land. "Hayes Vineyards isn't my problem." Jenna's chair scraped as she half rose. "You're selfish. This is our family's blood in those vines." Her voice cracked, desperation seeping through her polish. "Selfish," I shot back, standing now. "I survived because I had to. You all made sure of that." Aunt Kayla's nod was firm, but Mom's face twisted, her breath catching like she'd been slapped. Andrew tried again, softer. "What if we invest in Greenvine, like a real stake?" His offer hung there, weak against years of silence. I shook my head. Too late. The room pulsed with their stares, Jenna's fury, Andrew's regret, Dad's silence, Mom's plea. I held my ground, the air electric. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. "Please, Sierra, think about it." The tension snapped taut, ready to break. Trisha lurched forward, her chair toppling as she dropped to her knees before me. The room gasped, glasses clinking against plates in the sudden hush. Her hands clutched mine, trembling, her voice breaking like thin glass. "Sierra, please save Hayes Vineyards. The droughts are killing us. Your app, your money, invest now. We're family." My smirk widened, cold and sharp as a winter frost on the vines. "The inheritance wasn't for a pig, right?" I said, voice steady, echoing Dad's words from earlier. "Go away, Mom. This pig isn't stupid." I pulled my hands free, her fingers slipping off like wilted leaves. The table froze, Jenna's mouth hung open, Andrew's eyes widened, and the kids Brandon, Mackenzie, and Logan stared like I'd shattered a bottle. Aunt Kayla's nod was slow, approving, while Uncle Kevin and Aunt Cassidy whispered, their faces tight. Uncle Tyler's fork dangled forgotten. Trisha's sob choked out, her necklace beads rattling as she sank lower. "We're losing everything. You can't turn your back." Her plea scraped raw, but it only stoked the fire in my chest, years of their dismissal burning hot. I stood chair scraping the oak floor, my pulse hammering, but my face calm. "You turned your back first, Mom. You chose Jenna always. I'm done saving people who never saw me." My words landed heavy, each one a stone in the silence. Dad rose then, his shadow looming as he stepped toward me. His voice cracked softer than I'd ever heard. "Sierra, wait. Let's talk, just us. I was wrong. Okay, give me a chance to fix this." His eyes, usually hard as oak barrels, glistened with something close to regret. I turned, my bag already in hand. "You had 35 years, Dad. That chance is gone." My tone was flat, final. His shoulders slumped like a vine buckling under drought. Jenna tried to speak, her voice a hiss. "You're throwing away family for pride." I ignored her, my gaze sweeping the room one last time. Brandon tugged Mackenzie's sleeve, whispering, "Is Aunt Sierra leaving forever?" Logan's phone slipped from his hand, his face pale. I crouched briefly, pulling them into a quick hug. Brandon's hair messy, Mackenzie's bracelet jingling, Logan's shoulders stiff. "Stay sharp, kids." I murmured, my throat tight but my resolve ironclad. They nodded, eyes wide, too young to grasp the fracture. I grabbed my coat from the rack, the farmhouse door creaking as I yanked it open. The Napa night hit me, crisp air, distant hum of a harvest truck, star sharp above the dark rows of vines. I didn't look back as I strode to the rented car, keys jangling in my hand. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the fog rolling off the valley. Jenna's shout trailed after me. "You'll regret this, Sierra." I didn't flinch. The gravel crunched under my tires as I pulled away, the farmhouse shrinking in the rear view. My heart pounded, not with guilt, but with a strange, fierce freedom, like shaking off a bad vintage and starting clean. Mom's plea echoed in my head, her knees on the floor, Dad's broken voice. I gripped the wheel tighter, the road to California stretching ahead. I'd built my empire without them, and I'd keep it that way. No inheritance, no vineyard, no family could claim me now. If you've ever walked away from toxic family, would you have stayed or left? Drop your story in the comments below, let's hear it. The weight of that night settled heavy as a late harvest. 9 months passed since I drove away from that Napa farmhouse, the weight of that Christmas night fading like a bad harvest. My phone stayed silent, no texts, no calls from family. I blocked them all, cutting ties clean as a pruned vine. Green Vine Tech soared, its valuation climbing to $3 billion by late summer. My app now powered 2,000 vineyards, steering growers through heat spikes and water cuts across the states. I'd built a legacy without their name. Hayes Vineyards wasn't so lucky. By June, the drought worsened by the 2025 green shift choked their yields. Napa's old-school estates reliant on heavy irrigation couldn't keep up without tech like mine. Ryan sold the vineyard in August, the sprawling rows of Hayes reserves snapped up by a corporate chain for pennies. He moved to a one-bedroom in San Francisco alone, his pride as brittle as dried stalks. I heard through a cousin he spent days staring out at the bay, no glass of red in hand anymore. Trisha unraveled faster. The divorce hit by fall, she and Ryan split over debts piling like overripe fruit. She turned to late-night casino runs, chasing losses in Reno, burning through what little they'd salvaged. Her necklace, the one she'd clutched that night, was pawned by September or so, Aunt Kayla said. I didn't check. Didn't care. Jenna's fall was sharper. Without the vineyard, her CEO dreams crumbled. The new owners cut her loose, no room for a marketing exec who'd banked on family clout. She and Taylor fought constantly, their Napa condo a battleground of shouted accusations. Brandon and Mackenzie, caught in the crossfire, stopped posting their soccer wins online. Jenna's smug grin from Christmas was gone, replaced by job rejections and a LinkedIn profile gathering dust. Andrew didn't fare better. His marriage to Sierra, his wife not me, cracked under the strain. He'd messaged me once, a weak apology about following Jenna's lead, but I left it unread. By winter, he was sleeping on a friend's couch, separated, his irrigation projects worthless without the vineyard. Logan, his son, applied to tech programs inspired by my app, but I didn't reply to his emails. That bridge was ash. I kept moving forward. In July, I launched the Pig to Power scholarship at my old high school, funding 5 Napa girls each year to study viticulture or tech at UC Davis. My mentor, Ms. Destiny Ellis, had believed in me when no one did. Her name on the fund felt right. I mentored those girls myself, their eager questions about coding and soil science lighting a spark I'd once carried. My team grew too, hiring women engineers who'd faced their own pig labels, building a company that stood for something real. Looking back, that Christmas didn't just break my family, it freed me. Women, your worth isn't tied to what family demands or how they label you. Self-respect is your legacy, not their approval. Don't waste years chasing validation from people who can't see you. I walked away, and it was the best choice I ever made. If you fought for your value against family who tried to bury it, hit like, subscribe, and share this with a sister who needs to hear it. Comment your story. When did you choose yourself over toxic ties? Use Pig to Power. I'm reading everyone. That night in Napa taught me freedom outlasts their vines.